Hello, my friend. This is Sarah with the 5D Codes podcast, coming to you from Northern California, the Grass Valley area in particular. The 5D Codes is a reflective storytelling I share from my lived experience through the lens of myth, soul, psychology, and the natural world as activation codes for your own journey. Today's message is essentially a channeling from my higher self to you. And I share from personal story and lived experience, which is the oldest form of transmission. It speaks directly to the heart. And that's exactly where we're going to go today. I had to start with a little Tibetan bowls because the energy is buzzing. You hear the birds in the background as I'm outside here in this beautiful homestead in Northern California. As I walked down the stairs to record this episode, I started watching these two hummingbirds flitting about, big part of the ecosystem here in Northern California. And they're flying together, playing, it looks like, chasing each other. And it looks like they're like dancing around this light. And there's rainbow colors glimmering through my glasses as I look up, watching the sun glinting through the leaves. You just can't make this stuff up. It's just, life is just so beautiful, isn't it? I'm watching a dog, so you might hear a dog bark as I'm recording this. It's another wonderful part of my travels, pet sitting. There are moments, I've had so many moments, even this morning, where I feel such intense bursts of pain. And on the other side of that, this utter beauty. And I have tingles all over saying this. There's no mistake that you're listening to this episode right now because there are no mistakes in the universe. And that is exactly what this episode is about. Trusting the divine flow. I know it's hard for the ego to imagine that there are no mistakes in the universe, but your soul knows this on a deep, deep level. And this is what embodying the 5D is all about. Moving from 3D, essentially ego-based physical world consciousness. And I'm going to tap into that a little bit further in this episode. To 5D, pure heart-based consciousness really is the act of embodiment. Fully integrating your soul essence into your physical body, which is no small feat, because this realm is very dense and the soul is pure light, right? So how do you merge the two? Well, there is a polarity dance as I'm feeling the beauty and the pain, even within moments of each other. Since I've been here in Grass Valley, it is just such a reminder of this human dance. And I have tingles all over saying this. I'm watching one of the chickens that I'm watching now flitting about because these people have about 6 chickens too. And, oh, hello, Miss Chicken. You want to say hi to the podcast? Chicken's coming towards me. They're fenced in, but they're near me. And I'm going to have nice pauses throughout this podcast too, which is just a reminder of the space that we allow as the sounds of nature move through, the sounds of your environment, even the sounds of your mind. Notice the palpitations of your heart. Let that be the music that you hear throughout this podcast and hopefully the rest of your day moving forward. So as I'm recording, I'm going to walk down to the pool. You might hear some noise, like a filter noise in the background. That's just life happening. That's flow in audio form. So why am I here? That's a question I want to answer. How am I traveling, and what does any of this have to do with you, the listener? Well, that's what I want to go into today. It's a full transmission while I'm on a walk through the property, and I'm just kind of doing a live channel download from this land. And you know, a lot of my episodes I filter through the lens of nature, which is the most beautiful mirror. I feel like it's a God mirror for our soul to become fully embodied. It's a portal. So here we go. I want to explore what are your codes. I keep coming back to this concept of codes. You hear what's the title of my podcast? The 5D codes, right? And it almost embodies this like computer metaphor, thinking we are a piece of the simulation that we're living in. We are essentially coded with beautiful patterns, beautiful, authentic patterns that only we carry. There are certain frequencies that each of us carry. I feel like they're almost it's like this capacity that each of us has. And it comes effortlessly to us. And this is the place where life flows through you rather than against you. And I'll bring in a short example. I went to a river spot with a friend yesterday, and the river is such a beautiful metaphor and reminder. As I was looking at the river, nobody was floating down the river, but I just imagined, which is why I have the cover with this person in a raft floating down the river. Imagine somebody in a tube just floating down the river, going with the current. There are some parts of the river that are going to be intense, right? And there's others that are going to be soft and gentle, and some that might not move at all. Isn't that a beautiful metaphor for life and how that life flows through us? So our codes are essentially where the current moves with you, not against you, but with you. And as I imagine this person floating down the river in this inner tube, they're not pushing against it, right? They know if they grab onto a rock, maybe there's heavy rapids, that's just going to hold them in place longer, right? They're just going to sit there and bump up and down. They have to let go at some point. And that can be very scary. So here's the polarity piece. We're going to tap into polarity a lot in this episode because that's part of the process of going with the flow. We're going to talk about trusting and everything is constantly working for us, even in those polarizing, intense moments where maybe we want to grab on and go against the current. We'll call those the super negative, right? The painful, the excruciating moments. Because on the other side of that is this blissful, joy-filled, intensely love-filled reality. That's the 5D. And really, love is such a broad term. I mean, it's all love, right? There's two basic emotions, love and fear. It's all divine energy when we really take it in with that 5D consciousness. Even fear just dissipates and dissolves into love. My heart is tingling as I say this. I'm watching a bee buzz about the flowers. And here's something I love, that bees vibrate at 528 hertz, the heart frequency. So when you're around a bee, if you attract bees, know that you are vibrating at heart frequency. Some people go into fear mode with bees. There's polarity, right? I completely understand that, especially if you're allergic. But I also trust that they're not interested in stinging me. I don't know. I just have this faith. Like they're smelling something sweet if they're buzzing. I had papaya this morning and some of them jumped on my plate because of the sweetness. So I just literally open my heart to them and I celebrate them. And when I do that, they fly away. It's like they're saying, hey, we just wanted to say hi. Yeah, we just want you to confirm you're on our frequency. Okay, you did. So peace out, sister, you know? I mean, what do bees do for the earth? They pollinate it. This is why we have flowers. This is why we have these fruits that exist. Everything is in divine flow. We can choose to view it from fear or love. So, what are your codes, my friend? Just be thinking about this, opening up to this through this episode. What comes easy to you? Well, for me, for example, one of my codes I've realized is travel. Now, I lost my job, essentially, was like forced to resign. So I'm going to say it was essentially laid off last April. It was actually 2 Aprils ago, so a year and a half ago, let's say. And, you know, I was on a really tight budget. I had like 2 final paychecks and then I got unemployment, and the unemployment was like a third of what I was making at my job. So I really had to budget. But let me tell you, I had unlimited time and I traveled more than I have in 10 years in the year that I was fully unemployed. How? This is one of my codes. It came easy to me. I found this app called Trusted House Sitters. I actually have a coupon code on my Linktree. If you're interested, it's like 25% off for the year. Not to put it in the advertisement, but seriously, it's been such an amazing way to travel. So I am like promoting it because I have had such good experiences with it. In fact, the house I'm at now was through Trusted House Sitters. I've been able to travel in areas that are higher end. I mean, you know, this is a multi-million-dollar property, no doubt. Stay in houses that I normally wouldn't be able to afford if they were Airbnb. Watch an animal. Like basically, it's my house for the week or 2 that I'm there. And my daughter and I did a month in Alaska last year this way, which I never would have been able to afford, you know, just monetarily, even when I worked my job. So just being able to have the housing, which has come easy. So, you know, it's a code when it's like I apply, and some of these houses are competitive. A lot of people are applying I have good references, and I've been doing this for, a year and a half plus now, and have a lot of experience. So people look at my experiences and my reviews, and they're like, okay, we're going to bump her up. But even when I started out, I experienced I had amazing house sit experiences. And somehow, I've been able to live really cheaply. Like I mostly make my own food. I do love to eat out and try new foods, but it's like the money that I need is always there. During this trip too, a friend gifted me with a car rental through Turo, which is another great app. Don't have a coupon code for that one, but I highly recommend it too. If you want to do something more like, local owner, Airbnb type car rental thing. And, I'm open to also accepting and receiving the gifts that are coming my way, knowing I'm donating my time for free to care for these animals. I'm also a paid house sitter locally in Rochester, New York, and that adds up. You can make, 75 to 100 a day easy house sitting. And so to offer that for free, it's like I know I'm giving. So the universe, I feel like this is how it works, wants to give back. You're putting energy into something, you're going to get it back. It might not be directly from that source, right? It's not from these homeowners, but it's from like a friend that offers me this, or, another gig comes my way somehow. Some people have asked me to do paid sound baths when I'm traveling. So you just never know. And this is obviously a code that is embedded in me because it's a part of my nature, because I'm so connected with the land. And when I'm traveling, I love the animals that I'm with. And it's cool to meet people that are like-minded and like-hearted, but I'm not traveling for the people, I'm really traveling for the land. And so when I go places, like when I came to Grass Valley, I felt this 0 point energy. I immediately feel an energy shift. And this is how I know it's a code of mine. So again, I'm giving you hints as to like picking up like the things in your life that just come easy to you. That people are like, how do you do that? How do I sense the energy of land? I don't know. It just happens. And so I drove to Grass Valley, and I immediately felt this like balanced 0 point energy. I had just come from Ashland. I did a 2-week house sit in Ashland, and I felt a very big heart opening energy when I drove there. It's a valley surrounded by all these small mountains or hills, I guess. And I felt so safe there. There was a beautiful heart opening energy. And then as I spent more time there, I realized, whoa, heart activation also brings up unprocessed heart stuff, often grief. So I ended up actually moving through a lot of grief and a lot of heavy emotional stuff that was still in me while I was in Ashland. And when I entered Grass Valley, I was like, oh, this is land that's balancing me out. It's like, yeah, you don't have to work as hard here, sister. I'm definitely feeling polarity, but the land, as I tune into the energy of the land, I'm just tuning into the birds right now, I feel this sense of peace. I feel this sense of balance, which is our natural state. So the manifesting blueprint here is really, if we talk about trusting the divine flow and what comes easy to you in life, sometimes you just have to surrender the ego's plan, the mind's plan. So imagine yourself sitting in that raft, floating down the river, right? And maybe you're floating down the river and you think, it would be really nice to have a companion right now. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, maybe there's somebody on the riverbank that has a kayak and they're just about to push it out. There's somebody. Now, it doesn't always happen that quickly, but you just had the thought. And there's somebody and they're floating down. And let's say you guys float together for a while, Sometimes we wish for something and it doesn't come. Like you're floating down the river and you're like, oh God, I wish I could have a hamburger right now. And no food appears. You could get lucky and pass by somebody that's got a little campsite there and they're cooking a burger. And they have maybe an extra burger and they invite you to stop and have it with them. The other possibility is you go for miles and there's nothing, So why does life make some things happen easily and some things don't flow as easily? I know for myself, when I thought about traveling and making it more of a paid experience where I'm going to rent this and that, it just didn't happen easily. And I tried to do that last summer when my brother got married and I was trying to make it work. I was looking for a house that didn't align, and I tried to find rooms, and he was in Juneau, Alaska. Juno in July, it's big travel season. So like nothing was available. Literally the universe was like, you're not meant to be at the wedding, sister. And I found out why. My daughter was going through some stuff and she got into some programs locally that were really, really helpful for her. And if we traveled, we wouldn't be able to do those things, or she wouldn't have been able to like engage in those things. That really helped open her up on some level. So while it was frustrating, it was like hindsight's 2020, right? I was able to look back and see, okay, there was a reason for this. You know, my brother got over his resentment of me not being there. And then my daughter and I were able to go the next summer, not just for a couple of weeks like we planned, but for a whole month. We got this house sit, and it came with a car. The woman was kind enough to let me use her car while I was there. So, you know, the universe has plans, and sometimes it flows seamlessly and the rivers just come, and then sometimes it's choppy and it's unpredictable, right? And a family member even said to me recently, you know, Sarah, you've been unemployed, you know, you're doing a little house sitting here and there. How are you going to California? It's so expensive, because they were in their ego mind. And I said, because the universe wants me to. Like literally, I just trust. If the house sit aligns, I'm being pulled to go there. Somebody had asked me to do a yoga workshop in Oregon. So that was kind of how I arranged this trip around that. And that actually didn't pan out as expected. Instead of a full house, it was a very small group of people. And I realized, okay, I'm not here to work per se. I'm here to, you know, have this exchange with the land. And that was a really hard one for me to stomach. But somehow monetarily, everything aligns through the trip because of being, you know, gifted things, certain things that were supposed to come to me, coming to me, you know, at an unexpected time. And this is what I mean when I talk about 5D living. We're not bypassing the 3D. Like, I know we live in the physical world, and I need to, you know, pay for things. I need a roof over my head, you know, food, clothing, shelter, all that good stuff is so important. But this way of living life requires so much surrender. And that means putting the logical mind to the side. Luckily, because of my yoga training and experience for 20 plus years, I've gotten really good at just letting my mind go, like knowing it's going to align. You know, I've been in places at other times in my life where I knew I was doing a program that ended this day, and I had 3 days without housing, shelter, without much money in my bank account. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I trusted. And I always met people that were like, oh, we'll host you, you know, or, you know, you can camp here, or, you know, something aligns that way. Some people just can't fathom living that way. And that's what this whole episode is kind of bridging in, this code. When you completely trust in life, life doesn't want to kick you on the curb and have you, you know, sleep on a park bench, and without food, unless that's what life is really wanting you to do. You know what I mean? Like, there is a plan, and everything that's happening to you is happening for a bigger purpose. You know, it's like sculpting you. Essentially, it's chiseling away at that ego that has to figure everything out, that doesn't trust, that is fear-based, and softening it so that the soul has more room to breathe in our body. And I know when I started practicing yoga and had my first experience, like with my higher self being embodied, I felt bigger than my body. I felt like my soul was taking over. And I remember like looking in the mirror and thinking, okay, am I still here in this body? I was like in the kitchen, and I felt like I was like outside of my body. I was in my body, but outside of it. It was like I could feel this expansive energy. It was like, wow, okay. When I'm just in my little human self, my ego self, I'm a tiny little thing. I'm a tiny little ant. And I feel this sense of almost like victimhood to life. You know what I mean? Like I'm in that raft floating down the river, and I'm not trusting. I feel like I'm going to bump into something, that life is going to harm me. But when I'm in that full soul embodiment, higher self embodiment, I have faith. I can float down the river and close my eyes. And I can laugh when I go over, you know, when I'm in the rapids or spinning around or going down a little waterfall, whatever, because I know that life has a plan for me, you know, and I trust that. That doesn't mean there's not moments of fear. It's like sometimes life's plan is to tip you over and like make you feel like you're going to drown or something. and then life does something else to you, you know? We have all had really terrible, terrifying moments. And I think the letting go code is the really important one to bring in here. What I've learned really slowly through the years of resisting the flow is that the universe has a much wider set of channels than I do, right? So my job and your job is to stay in this frequency of trust, to keep saying yes to what feels aligned. And I know even if I say yes and I feel like I'm not sure if this is aligned or not, I trust that if it's not aligned, it's not going to work out. Because I've had this happen with house sits. I've had this happen with jobs, you know, with friends, with lovers. So the letting go piece is really, really important. Recently, actually, this was kind of a big emotional thing. I had my old YouTube channel had over 400 videos from 2 years ago when I kind of started this deeper spiritual awakening of embodying the 5D. And I was drawn, and I meditated on this. It wasn't like a rash decision, but I was drawn to delete it. Just felt like it was stagnant, wasn't really building, and the energy didn't feel like me anymore. So I deleted it one day. And the same day I went to my Medium account, which had about 300 articles, which is crazy. 6 years of writing and processing, and I just deleted it because that was also stagnant. Medium had changed and it wasn't getting readership. Most of those articles I have copies of, but that wasn't the point. It was like, when I clear the slate, I'm opening a door for new energy to come in, you know? It was just a huge release. And as soon as I deleted both of those accounts, I felt like I got so much energy back. I felt like I shed my old self because I was getting, honestly, shadow banned on those platforms for what I was writing and speaking about. There was a reason for that too. My soul was saying, Sarah, you're not that person anymore. It was like the snake shedding its skin. Like, let it all go, Sarah. So I trusted that the people that I was meant to reach through the videos and articles, you know, I already reached them. And however many people saw them, those people were meant to see them. However many people read those articles, they were meant to read them. But a lot of the content just didn't resonate anymore. So letting it go, honestly, I had no issue deleting the platform. You know, I know many people would hold on to that. I don't. And I guess that's the code I carry, the letting go code, because I've been able to do that with relationships too. When I feel like it's not in alignment, it's not only doing me a disservice, it's doing the other person a disservice, because essentially I'm not being honest. If I'm feeling like I'm half in the relationship and half out, be it a friend, a lover, or anyone in between, then, you know, I've got to honor myself. And if we honor ourselves, we do respect and honor the other person. We're not lying to them. You know, it's like we're giving a true code. So right now I kind of use discernment, right? I ask myself before I let something go, am I releasing from clarity or am I fleeing from discomfort? I mean, my body knows the difference, even when my mind doesn't. And this is where I feel like we can tap into the soul energy, because the mind connects to the ego in a big way, right? Unless we're careful and discerning, but the body doesn't lie. So a true release has a feeling of spaciousness underneath it. Like if I've let something go and it's from the ego, I feel tightening in my body. But if I let something go from my soul, I feel spacious, expansive, open, you know, even when there's grief involved, right? There's going to be some grief and emotions involved, most likely. For me, I mean, that happens really more with people. And the avoidance piece, like if it is just this ego act, it has this sense of tightness underneath, but underneath that, you know, guise of relief. So what is truly meant for you will boomerang back, my friend. I mean, I'm going to say it again. What is truly meant for you will boomerang back. Like I said, you can't make a mistake. So if you feel like this is an alignment, you let it go. Let's say it's a relationship. And then life is like, oh, no, sister. Oh, no, brother. You're not done with that person yet. You know, that person's going to find a way back in your life. I've had this happen where I cut somebody off. I mean, even block them in my phone. I've had to do no contact with a couple of people in my life for that energy cutting reason, because I'm so sensitive to like psychic energy cords. And let's say if this person's in my hometown, I might run into them. I actually ran into somebody traveling once. I was on the West Coast and I'm from upstate New York. And this person was in the woods. Now, this person was not somebody I cut off, but it was like life showing me that it will send you the person if and when you're meant to see them, right? So on the trip, my first spiritual journey out west last year, I went hiking in these Oregon woods with these two wiener dogs I was watching. And it was such a beautiful, rainy day, misty, in the deciduous kind of rainforest, the ferns and the moss, everything was vibrant green. And the dogs were sniffing. I'm looking down and I look up and I see this guy walking with a dog, and I notice his dog immediately off leash, really good, well-behaved dog. And I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, I know you, and he was like, oh my God, I know you. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is wild. I knew he had moved to Portland just through the grapevine, but we hung out in our 20s. So now, in my 40s, I'm like, oh my God, 20 years later, here you are. And ironically enough, he said he was moving back to Rochester, my hometown. And I'm like, how wild. So almost seeing me was almost like nostalgia. And it was like a wink from Rochester saying, yep, you're welcome back. You know what I mean? And seeing him was like this wink from the West Coast saying, yeah, welcome back. So it was a really cool experience. It was just a brief forest encounter. And it's such a reminder that life is going to give you what you need. You can't make mistakes. That's the core of it. You just can't make mistakes, my friend. So I have to go into this too, because this is such a strong current for my journey. But my Harry Potter nerd's going to come out here for a minute, okay? And I'm not going to apologize for it. I feel like I've been living my own, honestly, Harry Potter journey lately. The universe has me in the depth of Hogwarts. And if you're a Harry Potter nerd like me, when Harry was battling Voldemort, navigating the dark arts, he was learning to use magic he didn't fully understand yet. I feel like that's where I am. I'm in Hogwarts Academy and I'm learning to master using my wand. I've overused it and I've underused it, and I've been a tool for other people's energy manipulation. I've been such an open field that I've let other people's energy kind of obliterate me. And I'm realizing now, wait, I have a wand. I'm a co-creator. This is where the wings come in. And then, seriously, you cannot make this stuff up. As I'm thinking about wands, I look down now at the ground, and there are these 3 sticks in front of me that look like 3 different size wands. Got Mama Bear, Baby Bear, and Papa Bear. And they're these thick flower reeds, I think, but they literally look like the kind of crooked Harry Potter wands. See, the universe is always talking to us. Which one do I pick up? That's the question, isn't it? When you realize you have a wand, when you realize you are a sovereign being with an actual creative power, the question becomes, how do I use this responsibly? How do I stop swinging it wildly and start working with it intentionally? Now, Connor, or Hagrid, this dog that I'm watching, I've nicknamed him Connor, but I've nicknamed him Hagrid because he reminds me of Hagrid. He's this big burly Rottweiler. And this property actually has dragons everywhere. These people love little sculptures of dragons. So there's figurines all around in the gardens. And then this big Rottweiler, Hagrid, big bear of a dog. And if you remember, Hagrid was the one in Harry Potter who found the magical creatures first. He understood them and he protected them. In one of the books, he found a dragon egg. He raised the dragon. He honestly loved things that other people were afraid of, which I feel like is such a great metaphor for the soul, And it's interesting, too, because Connor, Hagrid, the dog here, guards these chickens. He patrols the fences. There's bears around and coyotes and bobcats out here. This is Northern California mountain land. And he will bark at night, too. He goes up on the deck, and I can hear him out there barking. He just keeps everything away. So just like Hagrid, he's a protector of these things. Big, fierce, loving protector. And that, to me, is the energy of our spirit guides. They don't always look soft. They don't always arrive in light and feathers. And in fact, sometimes protection looks like a massive Rottweiler at the edge of a property, right? I like to think of the gargoyles, too, these, protective statues. that look really scary, and they're meant to ward off evil, right? Sometimes it also looks like an archangel with a sword. I mean, there's a reason that Michael is depicted with a sword. Even angels have to pick up a sword sometimes. Even love has to hold a boundary. That's a strong code. Like I said, I've had to block and go no contact with some people to protect my own energy. Sometimes love has to have a boundary and hold it, and we have to be discerning. If you do something, and again, life is like, no, sister, you're doing this out of ego. You'll know. It will tell you. So trust the bark. Trust the fierce energy when it comes, because it is protecting something sacred in you. Speaking of sacred, too, before Grass Valley, I went to Mount Shasta. You've heard me talk about this in other podcasts. I am in love with Mount Shasta, the sacred divine energy of that land. And I only had like a short stretch. I was like passing through literally as I was driving to Grass Valley because I had to be here at a certain time. So I had 5 hours there, barely a day. But Shasta doesn't measure in hours. I mean, the mountain is a portal. It moves in its own time, on its own terms. I automatically get into a liminal space when I'm there. This was my 5th visit to Mount Shasta, which is wild to say. Again, ever since I lost my job, I can't believe I've been 5 times to Mount Shasta. Here's the magic. There's the code. And every time I've gone, I'm a different person. It's like I'm a different person when I walk in, and I'm a different person when I walk out. Each time it meets me where I am and takes me somewhere unexpected. This visit in particular, the energy was fierce. Not hostile, but fierce. I mean, like being handed something I didn't know I needed. I drove away from the mountain, tapping into protector spirit energies I hadn't consciously worked with before. They were actually dark goddesses, gargoyles, like I mentioned, ancient warrior frequencies that don't look anything like I'd typically call light, okay? And I had to expand my definition then of what light means. Get a sip of water. What protection means and what sacred means. So mountains in particular embody polarity. I walk away from this. Wild birds, I don't know how loud they are in their background. But mountains in particular do embody polarity, I think, more than any other aspect of nature. You cannot go to Shasta and only receive the beautiful parts. It's like literally a portal. It will take you into the depths of what your soul needs. It will hand you the shadow material. It will ask you to hold it, to really work with it. So the gargoyles, for example, they protect sacred spaces, right? They're placed on churches and cathedrals to keep dark energy from entering. They look fierce, but they're guardians of the holy. I realized when I was in Mount Shasta, I needed a gargoyle to guard my gate. It just reminded me of the importance of protecting our own, protecting our soul frequency from the shadow of our mind, right? I really needed it on the gate of my own mind. That's the metaphor I wanted to get to here. Because my mind, just like yours, is a sacred space. And for a long time, I let anything walk through that door. It was just like this wild alley where anything could come in. And trust me, it was full of a lot of negativity. So when I landed here in Grass Valley and Nevada City area, I just felt that 0 point energy that I talked about, neutral, balance. So I left Shasta and processing this, gargoyle, dark goddess type energy, thinking, okay, life is telling me to protect. What am I protecting? Oh, these are guarding the mind. They're not allowing certain shadow aspects, self-critical aspects of my mind to enter me anymore, right? And this was intense work. So life always offers balance, right? As I was driving to the Grass Valley, Nevada City area, I stopped in Sacramento for lunch, and I was guided to go by this river spot and have a picnic. Well, it was the most beautiful experience while I was there. I was tapping into this energy, and I asked for a sign that, what I was receiving was true, because I always like to double check my intuition. And all these turkey vultures swooped down. I mean, I would say there were like 20 of them. They landed on the beach near me. There was like a little island outside of the beach, and they were like landing there in the trees. It was just mystical, beautiful. Well, turkey vultures, I consider them to be, they're scavengers. They are the scavenger birds. They clean the earth, essentially, right? They eat all of the carcasses. What a beautiful natural reminder of this whole metaphor here. So I feel like the 0 point energy here in Grass Valley, Nevada City is like the space between the inhale and the exhale. It's not empty or full. It's just still. It reminds me of Eckhart Tolle's power of now. You know, the quality of presence that isn't pulling us toward the past or straining toward the future. It's like Christ consciousness, some would call it, the eternal now. And I love this area so much for that reason. So I applied for one more house sit in Grass Valley when I arrived. I felt this nudge, right? I went on Trusted House Sitters, I applied, and I was instantly declined. This family had already found somebody like local. And I was like, okay, universe is talking, door closed, move on, right? And then I was guided completely on a whim to apply for this house sit in Ashland on the back end of this trip, thinking, well, I could go back there. There was more that I wanted to explore. And they got back to me immediately. They were interested. They were like, oh my gosh, you look great. We love all your references. And I actually had a phone call with them today, and they wanted to accept me. And I said, I needed 24 hours. Something in me was like, all right, just take a beat, you know. Again, if it's aligned, it's going to flow. You know, because I really think that sometimes the thing that's truly meant for you makes you grow first. It's like meeting your soul match. It's like, it's beautiful and makes you face yourself. And you can't mess that up. You really can't. So whether I say yes or no, I don't even have to make that decision. I feel like life is already going to make that decision for me. And then I guess here's another piece connected to like the Ashland Grass Valley thing, because, you know, about the ego planning. Right now, my ego wants to plan. It's like, I want to know what's coming after this trip. I know I'm going down to Ashland to Big Sur for a workshop, and then I don't know what I'm doing after that. So here's I had this plan, I guess, when I was in Ashland, that when I came to Grass Valley, I was going to be at this house. They had a pool and hot tub. I wanted to do a water fast. I thought, how cool. There's like a cold plunge and you know, a hot tub to like go in. It would be a great place to do a water fast, because it had been something that I had been wanting to do. But when I was in Ashland, all of a sudden I felt this calling one day. My stomach just fell off one day. It was like I wanted to fast for a day. And then it just happened instinctively. I ended up doing a 3-day water fast. I thought, how funny. My ego wanted to do this in Grass Valley, but here I am naturally doing this in Ashland. And it just flowed so naturally. And it was a beautiful experience that honestly brought me closer to many aspects of what I call God than anything else has in my life. It's amazing what, you know, this isn't about an episode about fasting, but, you know, the story fits in with this whole trusting the universe. It's amazing what taking something out of your life does. Like if you're drawn to all of a sudden stop a habit, it could just be scrolling on your phone, you know, going maybe without a cell phone for a day, or not talking for a day. That's also another profound thing that I've done. Taking out food and just focusing on liquids. I didn't realize how much food distracted me, like how much energy it took up from my consciousness. And so taking that out for 3 days gave me so much more time to like be with myself and honestly be with God. And here's the first like lesson or reminder in this, like the divine flow doesn't care about your itinerary. So when I was fasting, you know, the first day was just, it was very physical, releasing and feeling the edges of habit and craving. And then the second day, the emotional layer started rising. I kept reaching for something, like not because I was hungry, but because something in me wanted to fill this feeling, a mood, a texture, an emotion that didn't have a name yet. And when I took that option off the table, I had to actually sit with what was there. And that was effing wild, let me just tell you. On the third day, I was listening to an intuitive I follow on YouTube, or I followed then, not anymore. Somebody with a very strong, clear God connection. And this is another thing that I've done. I've gone in and out of following people because my intuition's really open to it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, enough of that. It's like short-term relationship, you know? And I feel like I'm on a different frequency. But I felt like that person was exactly who I needed to listen to when I was in the last leg of this fast. And something that they said kind of like helped ease me out of the end of that fast. It was almost like a prayer. It was like it held that space for me, and it cracked something fully open. And I could really see my mind's addiction to worry, honestly. When I took away the food, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm addicted to worry with total clarity. And so as I'm asking now for these gargoyles and these protective spirits to guard my mind from itself, essentially, guard my soul from the negativity of my mind, it really is about worry. It's about letting go of that worry. And that is the fear. And that is the desire for control. That's me floating down the tube and wanting to grip onto the side of the bank or a rock passing by because I don't trust that the current is going to take me gently. You know, I worry that the current is going to be harmful to me. So I realized that this was like a huge realization. Worry was my primary addiction. It wasn't food. It wasn't substances. It wasn't emotional eating. I mean, I'm somebody that's always actually been underweight for my height, but I feel I have an emotional relationship with food. So when I eat, there's this, like, it's always coming from this like emotional, like, ooh, I want this to like, you know, soothe me right now. Yes, I'm hungry, but I also want this to soothe me, right? And seeing that clearly was devastating and liberating at the same time because, you know, you cannot change what you cannot see. There's a deep code right there. You cannot change what you cannot see. So I was able to see this program running in the background. It was like this, for the computer metaphor here, this background process that I'd never fully consented to, you know? And the way that my mind would generate a problem and spiral around it and reach for certainty and not find it and spiral harder. It's like over and over and over again. And I'll be honest, since I put out this intention in Grass Valley, I've noticed this pattern, and it could be just even after doing that fast, notice this pattern more and more. I've noticed it around relationships. There was a friend that I had that I previously dated that, you know, I got to reunite with on my trip to California here. And I found myself spinning in this spiral around the past and the present and, you know, wanting to control the outcome. And watching it was just exhausting. It was actually so exhausting, I could not sleep one night. And I ended up just like writing and like journaling a lot about it. And that was me witnessing it, you know, because again, you cannot change what you cannot see. So seeing it all of a sudden doesn't mean it goes away. It means you have to work through the feelings. And that worry, that fear is the primary addiction of my consciousness. We all have some primary addiction of our mind. So I really want to get into this, the self-talk reckoning piece, right? The gargoyle at the gate of your mind. The foundation under the foundation is, I have been genuinely for most of my life unkind to myself in my own mind. Okay, this is where the self-talk piece comes in. Maybe you have too. I have been unkind to myself in my own mind. I say that plainly without drama because I think that a lot of us who do this work, who speak fluently about nervous systems and trauma integration and spiritual embodiment, we still carry this. It's intense, you know? And the gap between what we know and what we practice internally can be enormous. I mean, I could coach someone through their inner critic in a session, no problem, right? And then walk home and spend the evening running a prosecution against myself. Isn't that wild? We teach what we're learning, essentially. I re-listen to my own podcasts, and because I need it too. I mean, what I came to understand through this fast and through the whole journey, the whole trip that I've been on here, is that self-talk is not just a bad habit, it's a frequency, and it determines what I am available to receive. Hear that again. Self-talk is a frequency, and it determines what I'm available to receive because if I'm fixated on that critical loop, I'm stuck in that frequency, right? You cannot receive love, support, abundance, healthy relationship, creative partnership, You cannot let it land fully if your inner world is a war zone. This is the 5D. And I get into this more as episodes go on, so stay with me in this season especially. The gargoyle, that's the image that came to me. It was there to protect me from this inner world that was a war zone, right? They protect us against assault. They guard the sacred space. They were placed in the doors of churches, again, because people who built those churches understood that darkness is real and that sacred spaces need protection, right? That's why I like smudge. I do like to smudge or use Palo Santo sometimes. Think about that with your mind. If I'm feeling like my mind is looping and I light my smudge stick or Palo Santo, like that really helps me calm. It's symbolic. But my heart is sacred space. And yours is too. And for a long time, I left the door wide open. Every critical thought, every doubt, every voice that said, you're behind, you're wrong, you've wasted your gifts, I let them all just walk right in and sit down at the table. You know what I mean? It just was like this wild yell fest. But the gargoyle says, in Grass Valley here, not today, Sarah. This is not your house. No. And what I've been doing here, feeling this polarity dance, is like clearing that pattern, and it's been intense. But life is giving me this land, this 0 point land, to balance that out, that inner war out. And this connects to the throat chakra work that I've been doing on this trip, And even as I record this, I cough or clear my throat sometimes. I feel that activation when I'm speaking truth that isn't fully comfortable yet. The throat chakra has two extremes. That's over-communicating and under-communicating, right? The shadow of over-communicating for me has been oversharing, speaking before I've integrated, giving information before I digested it myself. And the shadow of under-communicating has been the silence as avoidance, swallowing things that needed to be said. That's a deep one. The happy medium, the sovereign center, is speaking first to yourself and to the divine, knowing that you don't have to prove anything to anyone. That has been the deepest, most peace-ridden lesson I've embodied. Peace-ridden. Even that phrasing, the polarity is in it. Peace that costs something. Peace that is earned through the work of staying present when every part of you wants to run. Well, what if everything is already in alignment? Not sometimes, not when you've done enough work, not when you've earned it, but always. It can be hard to accept that when things feel tight and things feel tense. I do want to talk about my sister Rebecca. And this is a deep story, I want to just do a little fair warning here. It is about a loss. It's about grief and loss. So if you're sensitive to that, I want to share now so you can jump off. But, loss is a part of our life. And for a lot of people, it's a part of our spiritual awakening. My sister was 20 years old when she passed away. I was 22. We were 18 months apart, basically. And she picked Halloween, of course, All Hallows Eve. She was a thespian, theatrical soul. She actually wanted to be a professional actress and had a full scholarship at Wright State University in Ohio for music theater. And of course, Rebecca would choose a very dramatic night to make her exit from this realm. And I never doubted for a single moment that it was intentional on some soul level. The summer before she passed, she was at Omega Institute volunteering, being her vibrant, alive self. She was trying to find herself there too. She was struggling with a lot of her own anxiety issues. I remember she came home to Rochester for a spell, and we spent some time together. She bought this beautiful white sundress at this world goods store that we both worked at together. And when she went back to school, to be honest, the way she passed, she was really into experimenting with other states of reality. And, she tried some plant medicine, but she was also open to trying other things. And she was given ecstasy. Well, it gave her a grand mal seizure. And on top of that, she was struggling with an eating disorder. So that complicated the process. I guess her electrolytes were really off that night. And she immediately went into a coma. And it was really intense at the time. My parents went down to Ohio. To be honest, I didn't even know what was happening. They kept it from us, which, they were trying to protect us. I mean, I was in college at the time. I was renting a room with a couple women in a house, living my own life. And at 3 a.m., I had to get up to pee, I remember. My parents had gone down to Ohio. They said Rebecca was in an accident. They needed to go down. That was all they told us. My aunt was staying with my brother and sister at my parents' house. And I got up to pee in the middle of the night, right? My mom hadn't called me to tell me what had happened. But I felt Rebecca really strongly. And all of a sudden, I saw standing in the hallway Rebecca with a white sundress. It was her face. And I've never seen an actual ghost, but she appeared to me as an actual apparition. She said, "Help," just very gently. I heard it in my whole body. It was like an echo in me. I was terrified. Oh my God, it was like sweating, shaking. I went back to bed, pulled the covers over me, got into a fetal position. And I was also questioning, did that really happen? Because I was half in this sleep, wakeful state. And she came into my dream. I fell right back to sleep, and she was in my dream, and she was like, "Help." She had throw up all over herself. She's like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know where I am." And literally, it felt like I knew in the dream she was in between this world and the next. She was calling out to me for help, which was interesting because as her older sister, she was always coming to me for guidance. My mom called me the next morning. She said, my sister was in a coma. I was like, oh my God, that's what it was, right? And within 2 days, she passed. Ohio had a 72-hour law, life support law, and probably to my family's benefit because, if somebody had no brain activity, she basically had no brain activity, they didn't keep them on life support for over 72 hours. And if a family wanted that, they would have to pay out of pocket. So what happened then was it just basically cracked me open psychically in ways that I'm honestly still working with even 20 plus years later. And my sister, Rebecca, is one of my strongest spirit guides now. She and my dad, who both passed on, come through birds, which is great. There's birds in the background here. Always, like scrub jays, cardinals, wrens, bluebirds, sometimes deer. When I see certain animals sometimes too, there's that recognition. It's like a fire in my chest. And I don't analyze it. I just receive it. I've had birds come to me that don't seem human and do things fly, just look at me and there's just fly in the air for, a minute or two. And I'm getting a download from my sister. It's just wild. So if you're hearing this, I just had to add in this message. Maybe there's something or someone on the other side calling out to you right now, a spirit, an ancestor, a loved one. Again, this is part of trusting the divine flow. Life is always happening for us. And sometimes these things don't make sense to the logical mind. When we trust the flow of life, it's all about the intuition. We have to let the left brain go. We open up the right creative brain and we trust, we surrender, we flow. We're floating on that tube and we're trusting whatever's coming at us from the river, right? And as I'm recording this in October, this time of year in the Celtic tradition speaks to the thinning of the veil, the Samhain energy, the season when the dead walk closer. The channel truly is open all year, but the veil is open stronger during the season. So trust that too if you're just tapping into this for yourself. And you can openly connect with somebody that's passed on. Just call their name. Go sit in nature. I think that's the best thing to do when you're tapping into this or just ever. Pay attention to the animals, what moves around you, how nature's talking to you. Just feel it and ask to feel them in some way, shape, or form. Ask them to come to you through a sign or a symbol. And then just wait to receive the answer. Don't explain it away. Let it be real, The dead, I hate to say that, those that have passed on want to be let back in. It's still a frequency. So this is where the 3D and the 5D are really important to understand. The 3D is the physical dense realm. When you pass on, I was with my dad when he passed on, I could literally see when his soul left his body. It was like his body just all of a sudden went from being vibrant to this shell, this empty shell. That is the 3D. The 3D is the empty shell, right? Without the vibrancy of the soul, we are nothing, we are just an empty, vacant shell. So that vibrancy of the soul is eternal. It lives on. Commune with your loved ones. They are there in a different form, in a frequency that they have always been in. So, my friend, what if everything is already in alignment, right? Even the hard things. And I can do another episode and it'll just flow when it's meant to flow about my sister and how her death really shifted my self-perception and was my guidepost to self-love and brought beautiful relationships into my life. So, the loss of somebody is a door closing, and that's going to open other windows. That's going to allow in new energies in other ways, because life is constantly, like the 0 point, trying to balance itself out. So when something is lost, something else comes in. Maybe not in the same form, maybe not in the time frame that your ego mind would wish, but it comes, right? I mean, what if the universe, think of it this way, is constantly, relentlessly, in every possible language, beauty, loss, fire, stillness, pain, synchronicity, saying, I've got you. I've got you. I think about the river, how it moves, how it knows where it's going, even when you can't see around the bend from where you're standing. My friend and I, while I was here, talked about whitewater kayaking and the respect you have to hold for the river, that you don't mess with it, that it has its own energy, that it can be fierce and fatal, that it can carry you somewhere you could never have walked on your own. I mean, life took my sister at 20. Life is raw and real, and sometimes it asks more of us than seems fair, right? Trusting the river doesn't mean pretending the water is always calm. It means sitting in the inner tube, back leaned out, eyes on the sky, holding space for the fear of the rapids and the beauty of the current, both at the same time. That's the deja vu of it. I've been having a lot of deja vu on this journey, that feeling of, I've been here before. I've been in this exact moment before. Not in this literal place, but in this frequency, this quality of being exactly where I'm supposed to be, moving exactly as I'm supposed to move, trusting exactly what I'm supposed to trust. Are we writing the story, or is the story writing us? Dun, dun, dun. You know that Will Ferrell movie, Stranger Than Fiction, where he's hearing the narrator narrating his own life. Yep, throat chakra here, haha. And then he realizes he can rewrite it. That plays on the Truman Show a little too, I think. Both of those are like some of my favorite stories that talk about this type of way of perceiving the world. Both are really cool meditations on co-creation, on the question, who's holding the pen, right? Who's writing the script? Are we writing the story, or is the story writing us? I think we're both. I think we are the story and the storyteller at once. Isn't that wild? And the moment we realize that is the moment we pick up our wand, remember, Harry Potter guys, claim our wings, sit in the inner tube and say, I trust this. The whole current suddenly shifts. Isn't that wild? Like, we can literally shift the current, but not when we try to control it. It's like, it's a Zen cone for the brain, I guess. If you know the Zen cones, it's like this puzzle-like poetry that it doesn't have a logical answer, but it's got a felt sense answer, you know? The mind can't understand this. Surrender to the flow. Okay, sure, yeah. The mind says it's got it, right? Surrendering to the flow always happens when the mind takes the back seat. That means the mind has basically shut the F up, you know? And you can't force that to happen. You have to allow that to happen. That's the trippy thing. So we keep coming back to what I keep coming back to as I'm recording this episode too, like the hummingbirds and the chickens and the bees and the wand sticks on the ground have in common. Life is always talking. The universe is always signaling, not because it's performing for you, but because you are it and made of the same substance. And you are learning slowly and magnificently to read yourself. When I feel fear about not knowing how things will unfold, I come back to the image of the inner tube on the river, sitting back, letting myself float, focusing on what I can find joy in right now. The sun through the leaves, the dog looking at me from the bank, the cool air, the fullness of being here. I can hold space for the joy. I can hold space for the fear of the unknown. There's always a 0 point, always the neutral center that we can come back to. That's our true nature. Beneath the swings, beneath the storms, always there, always love. Yes, that is the answer. Always there and always love. We're going to bring in the sound bowls as we close this episode. So, my friend, take what you need from this episode and leave the rest. Let it percolate like a meditation rather than information to be processed. The right things will land when they're ready to land. The universe is working for you. You, my friend, are the universe. The universe is you. Remember that. And if this episode activated something in you, please share it with somebody that you love, because that's how we pass on the frequency. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, this is Sarah with the 5D codes signing out, sending you lots of love and peace from the 0 point spot, Grass Valley. Love you.